Just one more hand. And this is the final deck. And we get chip on Swashbuckler, Golden Ticket, and Driver's License. And Completionist Plus is done. Wait for it. Where's the achievement? One thing with Balatro is that sadly some of the achievements don't actually go off when you obtain them, and for some like Completionist Plus, after you completed all of the gold stake decks, you then just have to win a normal run on any difficulty for the game to register the achievement. But after nearly 70 hours of gameplay, the major grind is over, and with a couple of extra gold stake games in between, we already have 99 out of the 150 jokers with gold stake wins. Alright, now we should get the achievement. We have beaten gold stake on every single deck and we have done one extra run. We play, York gets us 1 million. There it is. It's bugged. Completionist Plus is done. At this point, all that is left is to continuously grind whichever deck we want and win with every remaining joker in the game. And as mentioned before, there are a handful of decks that give us the best shot to win. Of the strongest and most consistent decks, I found that straight builds in the Abandoned deck were less consistent than the flushes in the Checkered deck, and the extra score, it wasn't worth the inconsistency. And similar with the Yellow deck, even though we had more money to work with, the Checkered deck could easily win with the first two antes, without spending a dime, and which it could rack up a lot of money very, very quickly to easily surpass the money that we gained from Yellow deck. I'm sure some people have found success with other decks and might have an argument why one is better than the other, but for me the Checkered deck was extremely easy to play as well as get consistent runs that had a good chance of winning. As far as my strategy for beating gold stake dozens of more times, there were a few jokers I used in just about every time I could. Since our build was directly suited towards playing flushes, leveling up our hand was a very straightforward strategy. So pairing a high-level flush with Photograph to 2 times our multiplier was almost always one of the strongest common jokers to grab. And as mentioned before, when Photographed is paired with Hanging Chad, that 2x mult is triggered 3 times total. So with just that 2-card combo, every hand we ended up playing that contains a face card would 8x our score. I then almost always grab Supernova or Abstract Joker for a consistent high mult joker, the Blueprint and Brainstorm to copy any strong joker I currently had, and then for X mult jokers, the Card Sharp was by far one of the strongest ones I can ask for. The Card Sharp will give a 3 times multiplier for any hand played more than once, and with the Checkered deck, flushes were definitely played more than once each round, making Card Sharp an automatic add to just about any of my runs. I would then typically always take cards like the Celestial Joker and Hologram as they are consistent ways to add multipliers to my build, and Astronaut or Burnt Joker as consistent ways to level up my flush. Obviously, depending on the specific build I went, some other jokers would prove to be extremely valuable, but this was my general strategy. And as the entire point is to get wins with new jokers, I found it much easier to have an extremely consistent strategy with 2 or 3 jokers than to just fill the rest of my slots with the new jokers that I needed. The reason I didn't make specific builds for every single joker is that many of the jokers either didn't add that much value to the score of the round, or they are meant to be early jokers and just aren't all that strong or strong enough to make a build around. But for some of the stronger jokers, there were some definite combos to build, with such as Vampire with gold cards, the Mini Joker with a ton of 2s, Baseball card with any uncommons, and so on. As far as the hardest jokers to obtain gold chip on, it was mainly the ones that actually provided no value at all, were extremely difficult to find, expired after a few rounds, or jokers that required specific cards in order to show up. Jokers like the Invis Joker and Soda Joker, they don't actually do anything unless they're sold, so they were just added whenever our build was strong enough to lose a joker slot, and in a similar vein, jokers like the Flower Pot, Idol, and Hit the Road, they only provide value when you have a very specific build. But as long as we could hold the extra slot, they weren't really that big of a problem to win with. The legendary jokers at first I thought were going to be difficult ones to get, and they would likely be my last ones. But with a recent update, if you get a gold chip on a legendary joker, the next one you find will guaranteed not be the one you already have a gold chip on. And for those who don't know, legendary jokers can only be found from the legendary spectral card, which have a very rare chance of spawning in tarot and spectral packs. And if the legendary jokers actually ended up being my last jokers to obtain, there is a strategy to continuously reset a run, skip any tarot packs you find, and just hope to start off with a legendary. But after trying this for over an hour for my first one, it proved not to be that great, and it was only going to be a last-ditch effort if my last joker to get was actually a legendary. And that leaves us with the jokers that expire on their own, as well as jokers that only spawn after a prior condition has been met. My last two jokers to gold stake were the Stone Joker, which requires us to have a stone card in our deck, and the Bean, which expires after 5 rounds. It actually makes sense why these two jokers were the last one for me to collect, as all of the food jokers that expire on their own, they are either common rarity jokers, or they only expire if you actively do something to make them expire, except for the Bean, which is not only uncommon, but it expires faster than any other food joker. And as for the Stone Joker, it is a strong joker to use, but as I was only going for flush builds toward the end, it didn't really make sense to ever add a stone card to my deck, since it wouldn't ever